The rain had stilled by dusk, leaving only a pear-gray sky and the mists that clung to the muddy banks of the Green Fork. Torches lined the stone courtyards of the twins, their flames wavering in damp air, turning every face half-shadowed and watchful. In the east ward, Robb Stark reigned gray wind beside Edmure's piebald courser, studying the banners rippling over the battlements. Pale blue of House Frey, a scattering of minor riverlords, the crimson-eared hound of the Craycalls, and near the barbican a square of pink flayed man. That sigil unsettled Robb more than cold steel. Roose Bolton's men had marched south with him since the Whispering Wood, and yet the memory of the Dreadfort's horrors lingered. Flayed corpses hung above gatehouses, screams carried on autumn winds. Bolton himself remained cool courtesy, soft-spoken behind expressionless eyes. But there was calculation in those eyes, a weighing of consequence Robb sensed rather than saw. "Lord Frey bids you sup within the East Hall, your grace," Sir Ryman Frey announced, bowing from the waist though his round shoulders made the gesture ungainly. "He has spared no expense. Barrels of summer wine from Arbor, fresh trout from the God's Eye. Spare me the menu." Great John Umber dismounted, his huge hands already smoothing his bearskin cloak. "Let us see if salty old Lord Walder can season his words with the same sweetness."
"Say, mans smilapinsha."
"Your pardon, my lord. Lord Walder is pleased to." "Pleased enough," Rickard Karstark muttered. "So long as the gold flows." His voice was bleak stone. On the long ride he'd said little, but Robb caught the bitter glint in his eyes. Karstark had not forgiven the phrase for Arya's rumored insult at the Trident nor the late pledge withdrawn when Robb took heather-blooded Jane Westerling to wife. Still, alliances were river ice, treacherous if cracked, deadly if ignored. Robb nudged his horse forward. "Sir Ryman, lead on." The twins' eastern hall smelled of beeswax and roasted boar, but beneath that sweetness lay damp flagstones and many years' smoke. 400 candles burned in iron chandeliers. Spearmen in half-ring mail formed two silent ranks along the walls, their pikes lifted like a forest of skeletal trees. Minstrels thrummed soft chords while pages carried trenchers heaped with steaming bread and blackberries spiced in wine. Robb's party filed between the pikes. Robb, Edmure, the Blackfish, Meege Mormont, the Great John, Galbart Glover, Ser Wendell and Ser Perwyn Frey walking in stiff accord. Then Bolton's small retinue with Roose a step behind. His pale cheeks glowed orange in candlelight. In his eyes faint flames danced. Walder Frey waited atop the dais, two of his daughters flanking him like faded tapestries. He was thin-skinned and twig bones bound by silvery hair, lips puckered as dried fruit. "King of the North." He croaked the instant Robb reached earshot, slamming a gnarled cane upon oak. "And Lord of Winterfell, or what remains." The words rang brittle. Robb bent his knee all the same. "Lord Walder, I thank you for your hospitality." Hospitality. The old man tasted the word, head cocked. A Frey never forgets guest right, no matter the wrong. "Sit, sit. Eat before you freeze." Harps twanged as benches scraped. Yet even as Robb settled beside Edmure, he sensed the tension rippling outward like a thrown stone upon still water. Frey men kept to one side, Stark and Tully to the other. Bolton's men drifted somewhere between, their flayed man sigils patching the gap like jagged cloth. Cups were filled, platters carved. Robb forced a smile while he exchanged pleasantries with the Blackfish. At the far end, Great John Umber roared approval at a haunch of boar, ale froth speckling his beard. Musicians quickened their song. For a moment it felt near merry. Roose Bolton lifted thin fingers toward a servant, accepting only water. His manner never changed. Mild, remote, eyes the color of tired steel. When a lull came in conversation, he turned those eyes on Walder Frey. "My lord, might I request the favor of a private word after supper? Concerning strategic routes through the Green Fork." Frey's answering nod was slight. "When bellies are fat and tongues loose," he said, voice crackling, "many things are possible." "Many things," Bolton echoed. Robb missed nothing of that exchange, though he pretended interest in Edmure's tale of Riverrun's latest foals. He recalled his mother's caution. "Trust is the coin of kingship. yet spend it sparingly. The musicians shifted again, strings descending, drums rolling soft like distant thunder. Conversation eased. Walder Frey raised a crooked hand. All eyes bent upon him. "King Rob," he croaked, "I would offer a gift to mend old slights." He beckoned a pimple-cheeked girl of 12 forward. Little Lady Mary, draped in maiden pink. "My granddaughter shall serve as cupbearer tonight, a token of my house's devotion." A token, Rob mused, though he wondered whose devotion it truly signaled. He glanced to Roose. The Dreadfort Lord's lips curved the smallest degree, neither smile nor sneer. "My thanks," Rob said, motioning the girl beside him. She poured arbor red with hands that trembled. "I shall drink to your house's health, Lord Walder." He sipped. The wine was cool, sweet as summer strawberries, but behind it, he fancied something sharper, the faint tang of copper. Outside, clouds shredded to reveal a sickle moon. Wind rattled arrow slits. Within, tension wound tighter. Great John had eaten his fill and now drummed fingers restlessly. Meage Mormont, bold as any Northwoman, surveyed each Frey guard with bare cold eyes. Even Edmure's laughter turned hollow. In that brittle quiet, Walder Frey coughed. "And now, a song for the bride," he declared. "Bride?" Rob's brows knit before memory jabbed. Edmure's pending union to Rosalind Frey. The musicians obliged with lilting chords. 24 Frey girls in blue and white glided forward, baskets of pale rose petals on their arms. They circled Edmure, giggling, strewing fragrant snow. The hall warmed with fragrance, honeysuckle, crushed mint, spices off caravans. Edmure flushed scarlet, pleased. Rob forced cheer. Yet at his periphery he caught Roose Bolton slip from bench to side door, unremarked but by one quiet figure. Lord Walder's bastard son, Ser Enes Frey, who tracked Bolton's retreat with eyes shadowed by his helm. A gust slammed the doors. Candles flickered. The music faltered, strings shirking a note. Gretchen's chair scraped. "There's a storm somewhere," he grumbled. Yet when Rob glanced at the windows, they remained dry, moonlight spilling silver. It was not weather that troubled the hall. A hush. From the dais Walder Frey rose with effort. "Friends," he rasped, "it is late. Before bed, let old bones speak plain." He fixed on Rob. "I wronged you by words and deeds, but hear me, House Frey values honor as well as tolls. We cannot fight the lions alone. We need strong friends beside us." Murmurs swelled. Rob's heartbeat quickened. This was unexpected, rehearsed perhaps, yet not with him. "You have them, Lord Walder," he said carefully. "The North remembers its allies." Walder's mouth twitched. "Does it remember its enemies?" he asked, then turned, cane striking oak. "Ser Enes." The bastard stepped forward, helm tucked beneath arm. His cloak parted, revealing mail the color of dull pewter. Enes knelt before Walder and unsheathed a scroll. "My lord," he intoned, "the seal of Casterly Rock lies broken." That scroll, Rob realized, bore the crimson lion wax now fractured. Message robbed of secret. Enes unfurled it for all to see. Painted letters glimmered. "Copper ink," Lannister read. "Read," Walder ordered. Enes cleared his throat. "Lord of the Crossing, good friend to the crown. His Grace Joffrey Baratheon, first of his name, extends thanks for the forthcoming nuptials between Edmure Tully and Rosalind Frey. His Grace approves the elevation of House Frey by marriage alliance to House Bolton under the auspices of Lord Roose, Warden of the North under the King." Edmure cursed under breath. Rob's fingers tightened on sword belt. "Warden of the North under the King. Bolton's reward for the swift and final removal of the Stark Pretender, his wolf host, and their treacherous bannermen. 2,000 gold dragons shall be conveyed following the act, as well as wardship of Moat Cailin." The hall erupted. Karstark leapt, hand on hilt. Great John bellowed, overturning wine. Northern captains surged as Frey guards leveled pikes to bar them. Yet between those lines rose Roose Bolton, pale as snowfall, returning through the same door. His expression did not change. Walder's cane struck once more, the crack of a bone snapping. Silence fell, broken only by Bolton's measured breaths. "Roose," Walder rasped. "I have been many things in 81 years. Lecher, miser, coward some might say, but never fool. Did you think your whispers would hide behind these walls? My bastard hears better than most men see." Bolton's gaze moved to Enys, unreadable. "We had an understanding, Lord Walder. We had a price," Frey corrected. "Price changed." He pointed his cane at the scroll. "You bartered with wolves' blood and thought me deaf. My daughters may wed your bastards, but my house will not wed treachery. Lannisters pay gold today and flay the debtor tomorrow." Bolton's voice was velvet. "And what do Starks pay?
Honor?
Cold graves? When winter comes you shall find no coin in such purse." "Winter," Walder chuckled, brittle as ice. "It comes for us all, but I'll not meet it with a lion's knife in my back, nor a flayed man's smile on my doorstep." He raised a trembling hand. "Guards." Pikes lowered, but this time they turned, not upon Starks, but upon Bolton's men. Over 100 Frey spearmen, archers upon balconies, crossbowmen appearing in murder holes above. Enys Frey drew his sword, stepping before Lord Walder like shadow. Bolton surveyed the reversal. "Consider," he said softly, "whose wrath you provoke. The north is broken.
Stark Wolves limp.
The Lannister host is fat and loud, but it is real. You stand between blades. Better between blades," Frey wheezed, "than beneath yours." Gretchen's laugh thundered. "Well-spoken, old trout." He planted fists on hips, glaring at Bolton as if appraising a sow for slaughter. "Look around, Leech Lord. No leeway left." Crossbows clicked, yet Bolton remained serene. "Walder Frey," he said, voice carrying eerie calm. "This is folly. You gamble all upon the honor of a boy king named in rebellion against the Iron Throne. Do you suppose Tywin Lannister forgives betrayal any more than he rewards it?" "I suppose Tywin is dead," Walder murmured. Shock rippled. Robb jolted upright. "Dead?" he echoed. Walder's smile was razor thin. "Crow came at dawn, from King's Landing. Lord Tywin Lannister slain at his privy by his own bastard dwarf." He tapped the cane. "The lion roars no more." Noise broke out. Disbelief, oaths, laughter. Bolton's lips parted a fraction, the closest to surprise Robb had seen. Tywin dead? If true, the realm's mightiest general lay cold as any corpse, leaving the lion pride fractured. Walder's coffer voice cut the tumult. "The world shifts. I shift with it. I shall not be remembered as a man who murdered guests for a corpse's coin." The cane pointed down the hall. "Edwin, clear the paths to the camps. Robb Stark and his wolves will depart at first light." A collective inhale. Robb's heart hammered. "Depart?" he asked. "Not before we sign new vows." Walder's eyes glittered like wet stones. "House Frey swears fealty to the king in the north." Gasps chased the boldness. Robb felt Edmure's amazement, the Blackfish's guarded smile. Yet Bolton's gaze that worried him most, never shifting from Walder, never blinking. "A rash pledge," Bolton whispered. "King in the north is a dream."
Dreams die.
"So do schemes," Walder spat. Bolton's hand moved, slow, graceful, to his belt. In a blink his dagger blossomed between fingers. Yet before steel flashed, Enys lunged, blade ringing. The clash echoed as crossbows twanged. Arrows whirred, driving Bolton's retinue back, felling two with thuds. Meege Mormont seized a spear, vaulting table. Great John overturned benches, bellowing "Eno quarter." Suddenly the hall roared. A maelstrom of clamor and steel, torches guttering, songs forgotten. Robb's sword cleared scabbard. Gray winds snarl thundered as the direwolf leapt the dais, tearing a Frey soldier who'd stumbled in panic. Chaos, yet not utter slaughter. Frey men aimed pikes at Dreadfort arms, sparing Starks, though fray of war blurred lines. Enys pressed Bolton back step by step, their swords screeching sparks. Bolton danced like a wraith, parrying with uncanny poise. He feinted left, cut low. Enes caught the slash, riposted. Bolton twisted, slicing Enes's thigh. Blood spattered. Enes growled, pressed on as if wound were wind. Robb might have aided, but 3 Bolton guards rushed him. Grey wind met one, ripping throat. Robb parried the second, shattered the third's knee with pommel, then drove steel home. Music stands toppled. Wine spilled like dark arterial pools. Walder Frey watched from the dais, daughters shrieking behind him, but his eyes burned fierce. He slammed Cain again. Archers, pin them. Shafts rained. Bolton's men raised shields. 2 fell shrieking, bolts protruding. Yet Bolton himself moved through the arrows as through falling leaves, cloak swirling. Another clang. Enes staggered. Bolton's dagger flashed into his ribs. A gasp, then the bastard crumpled. Bolton whirled, gaze sweeping hall as if mapping exits. Robb vaulted a trestle, boots sliding on gravy-slick floor. "Roose!" he shouted, but Bolton's pale eyes met his without heat, measured, cool. "The North is never one pack," Bolton said. Then he spun toward Walder Frey. Walder saw death approach. He raised Cain as talisman. Too slow. Bolton's dagger plunged. Yet a slim form hurled between. The cupbearer girl, Mary, eyes wide. Steel pierced flimsy silk. Walder's cry cracked stone. Bolton yanked blade free, surprise flitting across his blank mask. Little Mary collapsed, pink gown blooming scarlet. Walder's scream became a shriveled man's roar of rage beyond age. He hurled his cane, useless wood. It clattered aside. Great John barreled through bodies. Bolton dodged, swift, yet gray wind lunged, jaws clamping on Bolton's sword arm. Bone snapped, dagger fell. Bolton stumbled, eyes finally alive with pain. The direwolf shook, tearing flesh. Bolton ripped free, sleeve shredding, left arm useless. He fled toward side door. Gray wind bounded, but crossbow bolts flew wild, one striking the wolf's flank. Gray wind yelped, stumbled. Robb shouted, fury rending throat. He pushed after Bolton. Arrows hissed past, he ducked, sprinting. Bolton slipped into corridor lined with unlit sconces. Robb followed. Footfalls splashed through puddles of leaked ale, lamp oil, blood. Glimpses of shadowed alcoves, arrow slits like black eyes. The corridor bent. Beyond lay an open postern gate and dark courtyard. Bolton's figure half ran, half staggered, leather jerkin flapping, blood-streaking snow-pale hand. Robb closed distance. The howl of night wind swallowed battle clamor. "Roose!" Robb called, voice echoing in gloom. "Yield. No more need die." Bolton slowed. Moonlight silvered his profile, pale brows, eyes like damp ash. "Everyone yields," he answered softly. "When winter comes." Then he vaulted over parapet. Robb rushed to stone lip. Beneath lay the river fork, black mirror glinting. Bolton's form plummeted, cloak billowing. Water swallowed him with hardly a splash. Robb stared, breath steaming. Cold wind gnawed his damp hair. The river churned but yielded no corpse. Shadows beneath moonlight shifted gently, as if winter itself had swept Bolton away. Dawn pinked the eastern horizon when horns sounded truce across the camps. The butcher's bill, 33 dead Freys, 15 Northmen, 9 Dreadfort soldiers. Ser Enes bled out in Maester Bolton's care. Mary Frey moaned softly, alive yet pale, Bolton's dagger having missed her heart by a finger. Walder never left her bedside, muttering prayers to gods old and new. Robb convened council in a drafty solar overlooking muddy courtyards. Edmure sat grim, hand on Roslin's. Great John paced like caged bear. Meege Mormont polished axe. The Blackfish kept vigil at slit windows. Bolton escaped, Glover reported, jaw clenched. Divers sight a body upstream but cannot confirm. Alive or dead? Roose knows our numbers and intents, Blackfish cautioned. And the Lannisters may still march. Robb exhaled, shoulders heavy. Tywin's death could fracture them, or galvanize. Either way, I will not slay guests at table. We ride north to the neck, join forces with Lord Reed, reclaim Moat Cailin. With Frey levies and river lords we have strength. Walder Frey entered unannounced, cane missing, eyes ringed red. He placed a bundle on the table, Bolton's dagger. "Steel paid in blood," he whispered. "The crossing stands with the wolf." Great John grinned, gripping Walder's thin shoulder with a paw. "Then so fall our foes."
Rap met Walders watery gaze.
Amid all the bitterness, he saw a father's tears for a child nearly lost. His own losses pricked. Talisa dead at Riverrun, his unborn babe. He closed hand over the dagger. "So fall our foes," he echoed. "We march at noon." Noon sun glazed banners as they rose above the twins. Direwolf of Stark, Leaping Trout of Tully, Twin Tower of Frey, Bear of Mormont, Umber Giant, Glover mailed fist, and high among them the stark white weeping heart tree of the north reclaimed. Thousands cheered, horns replied, drums thundered. In the eastern bailey Rob mounted Grey Wind, the dire wolf limping but eager.
Archers lined battlements in salute.
Lady Meage roared war songs. Frey captains answered. Edmure kissed Roslin, then followed his king. As the gates creaked open, Rob glimpsed the river beyond. Still, inscrutable, keeping its secrets. Somewhere far downstream, perhaps Roose Bolton crawled ashore, plotting new betrayals. Or his bones nestled in dark silt. Either fate mattered less now that North and Riverlands rode together. He lifted sword high. Sunlight danced upon steel. "For winter, for wolves," he cried. The host answered, a rumble that shook tower stones. They rode, banners snapping like thunderheads of snow. Behind, the twins shrank, two pale sentinels watching history pivot. Ahead stretched leagues of muddy road, hardship and war, but also the shimmer of dawn upon northern snows, promise of a kingdom unbroken. In that moment, Robb Stark dared believe the Game of Thrones might yet be won not by treachery, but by honor reclaimed in blood and fire. And somewhere in the hush between heartbeats, he thought he heard the faint whisper of gray direwolves running home, their howls carrying on the wind toward Winterfell. PGSQL. Dawn burned away the last of the river mists as Robb Stark's army rumbled across the stone bridge of the twins, timbered wagons groaning beneath freshly loaded grain and casks of riverman ale. The banners were many and bright, direwolf and trout and twin towers foremost. Yet the wind that set them snapping carried a chill echo of last night's blood. Men spoke in hushed VO. Ices of crossbow bolts clattering from gallery windows, of the squeal of Lord Bolton's fracture beneath Grey Wind's jaws, of Walder Frey's cane clacking like final judgment. Rumor gave roost to the river's greedy depths, but soldiers are slow to trust rumor. Every rustle in the reeds made green boys tighten spears. Robb rode at the van beside Edmure and the Blackfish, Grey Wind padding limply at his stirrup, flank hastily stitched. Under the wolf's shaggy pelt the muscle still quivered with fever, yet the great beast refused the litter. Robb could feel the dull ache through the old bond they'd shared since boys' voices first broke, could sense a restless rage in the animal that mirrored his own. Grey Wind wanted the man who had hurt him, and the man might yet be alive. The column stretched leagues, for 1,000 Frey spears beneath the silver towers, 3,000 Riverland levies in drab quilted jacks, 2,000 Northmen with mail patched and pitted from a dozen running fights. Meage Mormont rode a she-bear shaggy as herself, bellowing ballads to keep her women's spirits high. Galbart Glover limped in silence on a borrowed gelding, sides still wrapped from Duskendale. The Great John barked orders like a packmaster, herding free riders who scented plunder in every bush. Ahead galloped Ser Brynden Tully's outriders, scouting the marshy track to the neck. They made 6 miles before the sky curdled iron and loosed a soaking summer rain. Men cursed and tightened cloaks about shoulders. The road dwindled to a churn of red mud, wagons bogged axle deep, and teams were forced to unyoke and haul with ropes about their waists. Walder Frey's third son, Ser Lucian, proved unexpectedly tireless, wading thigh-deep into muck to push alongside peasants. More than once Robb glimpsed the old man's scattered brood doing the same, as though the near loss of little Mary had driven filial piety into every marrow. Even Ricard Karstark, cold-eyed as a crow, grudgingly admitted the Freys were earning their keep. By dusk, they reached a low rise dry enough to camp. Watchfires sizzled in drizzle while cooks stirred kettles of barley stew. Robb took one of Walder's towers for his council. Cramped, reeking of bat guano, but dry. The lords crowded close, steam rising from cloaks. Moat Cailin lies 80 miles to the north, Brynden said, jabbing a dagger into the crude map pinned atop a keg. The Crannogmen hold the causeway's north end, so Lord Reed claims. South end's still ironborn, 500 or thereabouts in 3 towers. Formidable only from the front. From the fen's right or left, they're blind. Robb traced the inky scratches. We cannot bog the whole host through waist-deep mire. The Frey levies would founder. A strike force, Meej suggested. Bear Island women move like otters where men drown. Galbart's smile was thin. Aye, but once we take the towers, the Ironborn will signal pike. Worse, if Bolton still draws breath. He does. The voice was soft, cultured as wet velvet. Every head jerked round. Roose Bolton himself stood in the archway, cloak plastered to lean frame, one arm bound in strips of gray silk. Guards surged, swords rasping, but Bolton merely raised his good hand palm out. Peace.
I come unarmed.
It was true. The dagger Robb remembered sat now upon his own belt. Even so, gray wind bristled, lips peeling to show broken white fangs. Robb's pulse hammered. You leapt into a river rather than answer for treachery, he said, voice low. Why return? To bargain my life for the North's. Bolton's eyes were dull mirrorstone, catching each torch in eerie twin reflection. May I speak? A heartbeat. Robb gave a curt nod. Crossbows lowered fractionally. Walder Frey mislikes foolish wagers, Bolton began. Yet he forgets the game's other player. Tywin is dead, I, slain by his dwarf, but Casterly Rock still stands, and Cersei rules through the Boy King. Ser Adam Marbrand rides for the Trident with 10,000. If you linger to crack Moat Cailin, lions will pour up your rear. When swords close behind and ahead alike, even wolves bleed out.
Ser Adam?
Edmure's brows knit. Scout reports spoke of no Lannister crossing. Bolton smiled faintly. Scouts watch roads. Marbrand will use rivers. Brynden cursed. He'll take barges down the Green Fork, bypassing our outposts. Gods help us. If, Bolton continued, I hold the twins with 2,000 men sworn to me, Marbrand must pause before such a gate. A day's pause may win you Moat Cailin. 2 wins you the neck. Grant me safe conduct to my Dreadfort, and I swear upon the Weeping Lady to garrison these bridges in your name until winter's snows freeze every river. Swear, Karstark snarled. You swore once to Robb Stark. I saw your dagger at his sister's throat. At his sister's behalf, Bolton corrected mildly. Lady Arya remains lost. My son Ramsay hunts still. Ask yourself which serves you better. My head on a spike, or my castles and men in your service. The room crackled with tension. Rain drummed roof slates like a legion of mice. Robb weighed the soft words, the grave manner, the arm still slick with wolf blood. To trust Roose again seemed madness, yet to spurn the offered shield might doom thousands. Tywin dead, the realm might writhe, but lions fought fiercest cornered. Lord Frey will never suffer Bolton's banners within his walls, Great John rumbled. He need not, Bolton replied. Give me the lesser tower and a single drawbridge. His blooded sons will keep the greater. Robb looked to Walder's heir, Ser Ryman, lurking behind casks. The big man's jowls quivered. My father will have choice words, your grace, but the crossing is vulnerable. He swallowed. 10,000 lions upon us would drown my sisters in their cups. Silence. Robb rested a palm on Grey Wind's mangled ruff. The direwolf's heart thudded slow, syncopate. He saw in Bolton's face not fear but certainty. A gambler who knew every card all others held. Perhaps he truly had them by the throats. Very well, Robb said at last. You will hold the twins in my name. I hold your heir Domeric as my page against betrayal. Domeric, Bolton's quiet son, bowed silently in a corner. Bolton inclined his head. A fair hostage. May I request leeching for the wolf-bite ere I depart? Infection festers. The lords bristled anew at his bedside manner, but Robb nodded. A healer will attend you. The leech lord's pale lips curved. You are gracious, your grace. He stepped back, melting into rain-washed dark as if swallowed by his own shadow. With sunrise, Bolton and 200 Dreadfort men turned south while the host pushed north again. The road narrowed to the causeway through the neck. A weaving spine of packed clay raised scant feet above black water. Willows crowded close, their tresses brushing helms like ghost hands. On either side, the swamp stretched mirror-still until some silent predator breached with sudden splash. Midges birthed from every puddle, and ranks marched swatting. Here the Crannogmen unveiled themselves. Lean, reed-brown warriors emerging from cattails with frog spears and little shields of layered leather. Their lord, Howland Reed, wore a crown of tar-plume feathers, eyes bright as funfire. He greeted Robb knee-deep in bog, offering a single spear tipped with pale green dragonglass. A gift from the children, he said, to pierce shadows that stalk the world. Robb accepted humbly, though he doubted dragonglass could fell lions. Reed's tidings were grimmer. A bangled bird captured in his nets bore orders from Harrenhal, Vargo Hoat rallying sellswords for the lions, 2,000 strong. They mass at Maidenpool, Reed said, awaiting river crossing. So 3 claws converged. Marbrand by water, Hoat by land, Ironborn dug in ahead. Robb glimpsed Edmure's despair but cut it short. We break Moat Cailin before they break us, he said. The assault was laid swift. Under Reed's moonlit guidance, Mead's she-bears and 100 marsh scions poled flat-bottomed skiffs through sawgrass to the western tower, scaling with rope ladders. Gray-footed umber archers crept beside, long staves wrapped in mud-soaked cloth to dull shine. At the second watch of the night, mist thick as curdled milk rolled off the estuary, cloaking forms as they sloshed across ankle-deep flats. Giant Wendell Manderley, armor left behind, waded naked but for paint the color of peat, a great maul hewn from driftwood slung across burly shoulders. They came like dead men risen from swamp, and fear preceded them. Atop the tower ramparts the iron-born blew warhorns too late. Reed's darts hissed through fog, striking throats. Bears scaled anchor chains dangling from windows. Lord Wendell's maul cracked skulls like eggs. From the south gate Robb led the main storming party. Gray wind beside him despite the limp. They battered through oaken doors with a spare mast lent by Frey bargemen, roaring stark words. The fight within was vicious, reeking of fish oil, wet stone, and hot blood. Ironborn clinging to each stair, short axes flashing. Twice Robb slipped on gore. Once an axe kissed his greave, but the dragonglass spear turned a blade from his neck, its black edge clinking like chimes. At last he reached the roof to see the weeping turncoat banner, black Leviathan rampant, ripped down and twin towers hoisted in its stead. Moat Cailin was theirs by dawn. From the parapet Robb watched the causeway throng with cheering men. Yet victory tasted of brine. 300 Northmen lay dead or dying, and ravens already wheeled. He ordered ditch trenches burned with pitch to keep pestilence at bay. Howland Reed joined him, face unreadable. Well fought, he said, voice quiet as the fawn breeze. But a moat is no wall against rivers. Robb understood. Marbrand would come swift as driftwood on flood. He dispatched Brynden with 500 light horse to harry any barge that grounded, burned every raft along the east bank. Karstark ranged west to Shadow Hoat. Walder Frey's second son, Perwyn, remained to repair the towers, bury the fallen, and kindle beacon pyres at first sight of red cloaks. 2 days later came the first beacon. A rundown fishing skiff brought Brynden's bloody arrow shaft and a parchment. Ser Adam had crossed the Trident at Saltpans with 6,000 before the Outriders could fire the ferries. Still 3,000 more waded wagons through shallow fords upstream. Worse, lions had found 80 longships hidden by Stone Tree pirates and ridden the waves like Southron corsairs. 50 miles south of Moat Cailin, those ships could beach on either shore. Robb gathered his captains beneath the wind-scarred heart tree of the central tower. Rain pattered through twisted boughs, streaking bark like weeping eyes. Stained red leaves clung damply to chainmail. "We cannot hold a siege on two fronts," Galbart warned. "If Marbrand pins us here while Hoat strikes our rear, there'll be no north left." "Then we do not wait to be pinned," Robb said. "We ride at him." "Across the neck?" Walder Frey's bastard Walder Rivers questioned, called Bastard Walder among men. "Heavy horse will mire." "We take only the swift," Robb replied. 2,000 mounted. Umbers, Glovers, Mormont bannermen, Crannig outriders. We strike Marbrand's van before he knows we've left the moat. Brinden guides. Reed men light the way through bog paths. "And the foot?" Edmure asked. "Dig," Robb said. "Every ditch, every pitfall. Sharpen reed spikes. Poison pools with widow's blood. Make the neck a grave for Sellswords. Fry levies hold the towers with my mother's guard. Hoat won't breach with claw alone." Arguments simmered, but none dared outright rebellion. Not before that bleeding tree. At daybreak, the strike force assembled at the north gate. Ranks of shaggy northern garrons, half-starved coursers seized from iron-born pens, even Reed's marsh ponies small as mastiffs but sure-footed. Robb wore plain dark leathers, cloak pinned by a copper wolf's head. Gray Wind ranged ahead, muzzle bandaged in honey salve. Before he mounted, Edmure pressed into his hand a sealing ring wrought of red gold and pearl. "Roslin's wedding band," he said. "Bring it back to her husband alive, please." Robb clasped forearms with his uncle, then vaulted to saddle. Horn sounded thrice, and the host cantered northeast into fog, leaving Moat Cailin crouched behind like some ancient lizard shedding soldiers from its spine. They rode hard 18 miles before the first scouts returned. Marbrand's vanguard was making camp on a dry island called Sweetwater Ridge. 600 knights, 1,000 foot, dozens of ox-pulled trebuchets. They intended to wait for rear columns. Robb grinned. Marbrand's caution bought them hours. Brinden led the column round south, skirting shallows where frogs croaked louder than war horns. Reed's men drifted ahead through lily pools, slitting sentries' throats. At sunset, thunderheads piled in the west, painting clouds bruised purple. Meage Mormont hefted her axe. "A good night for butchery," she proclaimed, and Great John laughed like rolling drums. Dusk gave them cover. The lions had set little perimeter, trusting the bog's silence. Reed signaled with owl hoots, and the north burst from reeds in 3 wedges, crashing over wickerworks, trampling cook fires. Arrows hissed, spears punched through tent flap. Ser Adam's knights scrambled half-armed, war horses bucking in fetters. Gray Wind leapt a hedge, dragging a bannerman from saddle. Meade's she-bears smashed through baggage mules, hurling torches into powder wagons that erupted in blue-white flame. Panic split the camp. Some lions fled into knee-deep pools, where reeds concealed sharpened stakes. Others rallied about Ser Adam's gilt helm, forming a ring of steel. Robb's wedge slammed that ring. He met Ser Adam point to point, Westland steel on Wolf's tooth. Marbrand was skilled, blade flicking like sparks upon anvil, but Robb fought as if Winterfell's very stones sang through his blood. Each parry sent shudders up his arm. Each feint opened a fraction more in the Golden Knight's guard. The crash of handlers loosing blindfolded warcats behind, the roar of freemen slitting throats, the sweet stink of burning javelin shafts, a symphony of chaos. Finally, Gray Wind barreled between hooves and tore Marbrand's stirrup leather. The knight toppled. Robb's sword struck flat against his helm and dropped him senseless. Trumpets blared retreat. But the marsh had no roads. Horses floundered, men sank. By moonrise the ridge burned, tents guttering red. Reed's captives herded 300 prisoners, among them the comatose Ser Adam. 2 trebuchets remained intact. Great John took perverse joy in using them to lob severed heads after fleeing stragglers, bellowing "North remembers" into the night. Losses were light. The bog had drunk more lion blood than wolf. Yet Robb's triumph was tempered by news. Riders from Moat Cailin reported Hoat Sellswords had found a ford and were now 2 days' march from the towers. And messenger ravens from the twins spoke of something darker still. Bolton's garrison had slain 5 Frey men in a brawl over supplies. Some whispered the Leech Lord's oath already rotted. Robb ordered a forced march back south. Rain turned the bog to sucking pits. Men shivered, armor caked in clay. Marbrand, bound and gagged, bounced upon a litter, helm dent echoing each jolt. Reed wanted to slit his throat. Instead, Robb stripped him of cloak and sent him naked astride a mule to Duskendale with message. The North feeds on fear as lions feed on flesh. Return again and you will be bones for bogwolves. For dawns later they regained Moat Cailin to find the walls unbreached yet smoke rising from southern parapets. Sellsword dead lay piled like cordwood. Pits filled with poisoned spikes sprouted broken bodies in colorful silks. Edmure hailed them with ragged cheer, but his eyes were hollow. Hoat's goat sigil men had hurled wildfire pots, and half the western tower stood scorched black. Worse, a raven from the twins perched on his arm, parchment tied with Bolton gray ribbon. The king's peace holds. 5 mutineers executed. My oath remains. Yet Maester Vyman's seal told a truer tale beneath. Walder's 4th son Peter Frey slain by flayed-man men over Card Coral. Blood in the stables, knives in night. That night Robb could not sleep. He climbed the roof of the last unscarred tower, rain sweeping sideways in silver sheets. Far across the moat flickered lightning. Each flash limbed frogs leaping, reeds swaying. Gray wind pressed against his leg. Robb stroked coarse fur and let storm hammer his thoughts. Bolton played too many games. Could he truly hold with Starks while half his heart lusted for Winterfell's empty halls? Yet to ride on him risked splitting what little remained of northern strength. Casterly Rock would muster again. Euron's squalls of Ironborn plagued the western coast. Stannis sat at Dragonstone with fires burning. The realm was breaking like a wheel gone loose, and Robb felt the weight of every spoke. He thought of Jane, memory of her scent of winter roses, of his mother somewhere behind Lannister bars, of Bran and Rickon's shattered toys. Then he thought of little Mary Frey, brave enough to leap for a king's life. The realm had children worth saving. He swore to the storm that he would mend the wheel or die before seeing their bones beneath it. In morning council he gave his verdict. We march on the twins, not to kill Bolton, to make him choose. Gasps circled but no one countered. Howland Reed merely nodded, as if he'd foreseen this turn deep in bog dreams. Meege bared her teeth in satisfaction. Only Edmure showed doubt. Walder Frey was his father-in-law now, and blood ties twisted hearts. Yet the march never began. At noon a lone rider galloped from the north, horse lathered, standard drooping, white sunburst on black, the sigil of House Karstark. Guards parted and Lord Rickard himself slid from saddle, cloak sodden and eyes fever-bright. He strode into the hall where lords broke bread. Lord Bolton is dead, he announced. Mug hands stilled. 2 nights passed in the twins' great hall. Walder Frey demanded the Leech Lord's men disarm. Bolton refused. Steel flashed. Before arrowmen could intervene, bastard Walder speared him through. He spat. Frey's men raised the flayed man within the hall itself, pinned his pale hide upon a trestle. Domeric Bolton is hostage still. Shock coiled like smoke from torches. Some cheered, others crossed themselves. Robb felt an unexpected chill of sorrow. Bolton had been serpent and still he'd offered a chance at unity. Its failure meant new fracture. Bastard Walder rides to you now, Karstark continued. He bears his grandsire's demand. Name him Lord of the Dreadfort and pledge Stark banners to guard the crossing, or he will flay the boy heir and declare for Cersei. Fury erupted. Great John overturned a bench, splinters flying. Meege slammed axe haft on stone. Old Trout plays his last dice, she snarled. He must be answered, Robb said, voice low but steel hard. With blade if not with word. Bryndon's eyes narrowed. The moat is crippled, your grace. To leave now invites Sellsword's returning. Yet waiting damns Domeric. So we break the twins before they hear us coming. Rob's gaze burned. Reed's marsh rafts will float us down Green Fork in silence. We strike at night. No siege. That drawbridge unspools, towers fall to torches. Plans whirl. Ed. Reed would lead under moonless sky, cutting nets for barges. Mormont's and Umber's storm ground gates. Frey loyalists, Walder's great-grandchildren slighted by bastard Walder's brutality, would open sally ports from within. Each hour mattered. Each raven might betray surprise. That evening as they armed, a hush settled on the moat. Men smeared faces with swamp clay, strapped daggers to calves, whispered last prayers. Gray wind prowled along parapets, bark husky. The river's black mirror awaited. Under starless vault they embarked, score upon score of punts laden with killers. Oars dipped in perfect unison, muffled in wool. The current bore them swift between banks where gnarled oaks loomed like silent witnesses, their leaves rustling secrets. Rob stood in prow, dragonglass spear in fist, feeling the water's cold breath on cheeks. Hours passed. Once they slid past floating corpse half nibbled by eels, a lion shield still strapped to arm. Then distant torch glow shimmered. The twins' twin summits, crowns of fire upon stone citadels. Drum of blood quickened. Reed hissed orders. Punts veered to marshy shoals west of Western Tower. Men disembarked calf-deep, bows unstrung upon backs, blades bare. Mists cloaked them. Overhead the castle's sentry fires flickered lazy. Bastard Walder had grown complacent. First rope ladder ascended. A manderly crossbowman skewered snoring guard on parapet, lowering his body soundless. Meage's daughter Daisy scampered after, axe in teeth. Within heartbeats the wall walk belonged to the north again. On the east fort, Frey turncloaks, Lothar Frey's bastards. They wed gates at prearranged signal. 3 crows cawing. Iron hinges sang. Umber spears poured through like floodwater. Gray wind leapt battlements, snarling lightning. Rob climbed after his wolf into the Eastern Keep's banquet hall, a place he'd tasted wine but nights ago. Now its rush-strewn floors ran sticky with blood. Bastard Walder stood upon the dais beside the flayed hide of Roose Bolton, brandishing a meat cleaver. Little Domeric knelt before him, cheeks tear-slick, cotton shift clinging see-through to ribs. Back! Bastard Walder shrieked when he saw the wolf. One step and the boy loses more than ear. He pressed cleaver to Domeric's throat, carving shallow bead of red. Rob halted 5 paces away, sword low but ready. End this, he said. Bolton's dead. No heir must pay for sire's sins. No heir means no claim, Walder snarled. Dreadfort falls to Frey by right of conquest. Step aside and I grant you crossing south in peace. Gray wind growled. Rain drummed roof tiles. Rob saw Domeric's eyes. Fear, yes, but also some steely plea. Let me bleed if realm may heal? The boy was hardly 13. Rob shifted grip upon spear. Dragonglass gleamed, drinking torchlight. Then he knelt slow, laying sword on flagstone. I yield, he said softly. In guest right's name, spare the lad. Strike lord for lord. Walder blinked, thrown off script. He hawked, spat. You think me soft? Surrender means little if I flay you instead. Try, Rob said, but hear the halls behind you. Walder faltered. Clamor rose beyond doors. Umber's chanting, Mormont's roaring. Frey steel on Frey steel. A woman screamed. Gray wind advanced a paw's breadth, hackles bristling. Fear cracked the bastard. He yanked Domeric upright, turned to bolt for the servant's stare. Gray wind sprang. The wolf's fangs closed round Walder's sword arm. Cleaver clattered. Domeric fell scrambling. Walder shrieked, but Gray wind's weight slammed him to flagstone. Jaws snapped shut on his throat. One jerk, one wet rip, then stillness. Blood pooled ruby. Rob exhaled. He crossed and helped Domeric stand. The boy shook, lips blue. Your father... Rob began, but words failed. Domeric merely nodded, eyes distant. Outside the great hall, fighting sputtered out as Frey loyalists surrendered. Dawn's first blush revealed a courtyard strewn with bodies wearing Tower Grey, Tower Blue, Flayed Man, and Wolf. Walder Frey himself emerged from his apartments, pushed in a wheeled chair by his silent teen bride, face pale but eyes bright with morbid delight. "Well," he croaked, surveying Gore. "Seems my brood culled itself." Robb strode before him, cloak torn, mud spattered. "Your house needs new lordship," he said. "One who keeps vows." Walder's laugh was dry twigs. "At 81, I'll be dead ere the spring. Choose which son pleases you. They all cost the same." Robb glanced at the throngs of Frey captives. Many a pair of eyes lowered. Then one stepped forward, little Walder, though near 20, lean and stoop-shouldered. "I served Edmure at Riverrun," he said. "I kept my oath. I will again." And so he was named Lord of the Crossing, sworn upon heart-tree sapling planted in the courtyard. Terms were inked. Frey's hostages to Winterfell until war's end. Bridges free to north for all time save foes. Domeric Bolton fostered at the Twins under Edmure's watch. The realm beyond remained embers of wider blaze. Yet for a moment the north had stitched another rent. As bodies were burned and septons prayed, Robb stood atop the eastern tower parapet. Grey wind limped at his side but wagged tail to salty breeze. Downriver, burnt wrecks of lion barges drifted past, their fires quenched by current now carrying them to some nameless sea. Edmure joined him, chuckling wearily. "No one will sing of a red wedding now, eh? More like the Frey flaying." "Songs lie," Robb said, "but deeds remain." He watched smoke spiral into sunrise crimson. "We are far from home still, and winter marches." Yet for the first time he felt hope, stubborn as a weed-cracking stone, but green and growing. The north was bleeding, battered, yet unbowed. They would return to Winterfell Rottenwald, reclaim hearth and harvest, teach cubs to howl beneath star-washed snows. And when the winds of winter howled, the pack would stand together. Freys and Tullis, Mormonts and Reeds, even a Bolton boy spared. So long as honor guided steel, the night would pass. Below, bells tolled for the dead, and somewhere a child laughed at a mummer tumbling through puddles, unmindful of ravens. The wheel of thrones ground on, but for now the wolves ran, and their howls echoed across brightening sky, carried northward on a wind that smelled faintly of pine and fresh-fallen snow. PGSQL. Rain ceased 2 days after the fall of the Twins, as though the sky's long sorrow were spent. Clouds unraveled into ribbons of salmon-pink dawnlight, and crows picked the last tatters of battle from the Bailey Yard, strips of Bolton Grey, shreds of Tower Blue, a pale scrap of Bastard Walder's cloak half congealed to the cobbles. Black-robed septons prayed over pyres. Green boys shuffled lime into mass graves, and Robb Stark convened his captains beneath a makeshift pavilion stitched from banners of the slain. A cold wind worried the canvas, carrying scents of wet wood smoke and charred flesh. Brynden Tully crouched over a slate and scratched troop counts with a stick of chalk. 6,000 march-fit souls left, he said, voice gravel. Half of those Riverlanders who still look south for gratitude that may never come. 2,000 Freys bound to us by hostage and oath. Gods help us. 800 Reed Marshmen, 300 Mormont, 400 Umber Horse. He tapped the slate. And 3,000 wounded, some fit to limp spears on wagons, others fit for nothing but prayer. We hold the river tolls now, Edmure added, leaning on the map table. Rain-stiff hair clung to his brow. Gold flows north as merchants seek safe crossing. Enough to restock Winterfell come harvest. Robb stood apart, arms folded, gray wind pressed against his thigh. The direwolf still limped, but the wound no longer seeped. Gold will not mend holes in our shield wall, he said. Marbrand's survivors will rally with Duskendale garrison. Lannister coin hires fresh blades hourly. Meage Mormont spat. Let them hire. We have claws. She rapped knuckles on the dragonglass spear that Robb now kept propped by his chair. And Winter's teeth. A gust lifted pavilion flaps. Howland Reed entered noiseless, mud-caked cloak dripping. He bowed slight. Scouts from Fever Water, he reported, voice the hush of rustling reeds. An iron-borne longship rose south under black banners, hull scored by fire. They claim parley, shield white to the wind, some say. Iron-born, Great John snorted, thumping a keg for seat. The krakens smell blood and come to gnaw what's left. Perhaps. Reed's smile was faint. Yet the banner white may be hope, not hunger. Robb exchanged a glance with Brynden. The Blackfish shrugged. Send word. They may approach at sundown. One ship only, weapons sheathed. He scratched another note on slate. If Theon Greyjoy thinks to trade our heads for his father's crown, he'll find our blades still eager. At sundown the ship arrived, laboring against gusts. It was no sleek war prow, but a merchant cog half-stripped of sails. Its figurehead cracked. Upon the foredeck stood a woman in fins of black-scaled leather and spectacle helm of polished bronze. When the vessel grounded in shallows, she leapt to knee-deep mud, tossed helm aside, and strode up the embankment with none to escort her. Robb watched from the gatehouse walk, Meej at his left, Galbart at right. As the stranger neared, torches revealed sea-salted braids gone silver and a patch of old sunburn puckering one cheek. She knelt. "Asha Greyjoy," she declared, "daughter of Balon, captain of the Black Wind, heir by Yara's death to Pike. I seek audience." "We know your name," Robb called down, remembering the tales. The Kraken maiden who raided Tall Heartlands while he fought at Oxcross. His hand flexed on hilt. "Why come now?" Asha raised eyes fierce as gulls. "Because Myrcella Baratheon sails for Sunspear with 300 knights, and Euron crows I means to snatch her mid-voyage. He readies a fleet at Old Wyke, yet his captains bicker, my father lies dead, and I would sooner bend knee to the wolf than see the isles drown under crow's eye shadow." Murmurs rippled along the battlements. Galbart spat over the parapet. "Krakens bend no knee save to Salt Throne. Salt Throne cracked when my uncle married the Red God," Asha retorted. "Half our priests burn, the rest drown. I would save my people before they are ash or foam." She rested hand upon dagger but drew not. "Lend me timber and tar for 40 swift longships, and I swear the Iron Fleet harasses every Lannister holdfast from Banefort to Fair Isle. The West will bleed gold to plug their harbors." Robb studied her, wind-chafed, proud, yet desperation flickered behind bold words. Euron's madness was no secret. Ravin spoke of priests strung from masts, black sails painted with blue lips. To pit Kraken against Lion might buy the North breathing room. Yet alliance with Reavers risked fresh wounds. "You ask coin and timber," he said. "What give you in return beyond raids?" Asha drew forth a scroll sealed with a blob of black pitch. She extended it upward. "Maps from Old Town's secret archives, channel depths, hidden coves, tides of the Sunset Sea. With these your smugglers slip any blockade. And..." She hesitated, breath misting. "A captive once dear to you." She gestured to the ship. From below decks 2 Kraken sailors emerged, escorting a thin figure in salt-stained cloak. Torchlight showed hair ginger gold, face gaunt yet proud. Jane Westerling. Robb's throat clenched. He'd believed her slain at Riverrun, stabbed in bed when Lannister forces reclaimed the castle. Now she staggered on bruised feet, eyes glimmering as she found him aloft. "Robb!" she whispered, wind stealing the sound. Joy warred with caution. Was this trick? Brynden leaned close, baritone murmur. "Could be imposter, could be trap, could be wife," Meej countered softly. Robb raised hand. "Bring her forward under our flag." Guards winched the gate. Grey Wind trotted out first, sniffing sea stinks. Behind him Robb descended, helm unbuckled, heart hammering. Asha surrendered sword to gate guard, then guided Jane across cobbles slick with kelp. At 10 paces Robb saw tears spark in her lashes. He closed distance, trembling. "My love," he breathed, cupping her cheeks. The bones were sharp, but the eyes, hazel flecked with gold, were hers. She sobbed, wordless, burying face in his sodden cloak. A hush fell over the yard, soldiers shifting, some smiling, some wary. Robb kissed her hair, tasting salt. Then he straightened, facing Asha. Your pledge is weighed. 40 ships you shall have, once we rebuild the yards at Seaguard. In turn, the Iron Fleet fights west as Harrier, not conqueror, sparing small folk. Any kraken who reaves innocent lands answers to me. Asha inclined head. Then we are bound. Her gaze flicked to gray wind. She grinned. A wolf on deck. Now there's omen enough. She reclaimed her sword only once outside. Jane slept 3 days straight in the tower's solar, fevered dreams muttering of chains in Casterly cellars, of a dwarf with mismatched eyes who set her loose in a wine cask the night Tywin died. Robb sat vigil each dusk, holding her frail hand while maesters leached infection from lash cuts along her back. Each dawn he kissed brow, then returned to command, more determined, more human than his captains had seen in months. Yet news from the wider realm darkened hours. Ravens from White Harbor told of snows in mid-harvest, blanketing barley still green. Maester Wyman spoke of a comet tail seen over shivering sea, sky frozen and cracked. From King's Landing rumors seeped of Queen Cersei crowned regent, Tommen sickly, half the Kingsguard replaced by silent sisters after courtroom slaughter. One report claimed Tyrion Lannister escaped dungeons astride a black goat, though even Brynden laughed at that. The direst raven came from Castle Black. Lord Commander Jon Snow begged aid. White walkers stirring beyond shattered fist, small folk rising as whites. The parchment smelled of soot and cold iron. Robb read the plea thrice beneath flicker of tallow. Winter marched faster than any Southron host. If walls fall, he told council, there will be no north to rule. He traced map, from Twins to Winterfell to Wall. We split again. Riverlord secure Trident. Asha raids the west. I ride for Winterfell, rebuild ramparts, then push to Castle Black with every able hand. Karstark bristled. Abandon Riverlands and we cede them to lions. Riverlands burn if winter whites break through, Brynden countered. Walls first, crowns later. Walder Blackwood, new sworn vassal, voiced what many thought. We trust Freys to keep our backs? The same who planned Red Wedding. All eyes drifted to little Lord Walder, seated stiff. He swallowed. I give hostages and my own throat, if need be. The crossing stands with North. Suspicion lingered like damp, but options thinned. Robb clapped table. Edmure remains to marshal Tully banners. Great John and Meege with me north. Reed marches marshmen home to call bannermen of Bar Rollins. We ride at dawn. Night found him again at Jane's bedside. She woke near moonrise, breath rasping. I dreamt. You carried me into snow, she whispered. Wolf prints, red leaf trees. Soon, he said, brushing tangle from brow. Home waits. Pain haunted her smile. Home burned. Stones still stand. We build anew. She closed eyes. Then take me with you. I will not be queen, but I can darn cloaks. You will be queen of rebuilt halls, he said. And my cloak holes need darning indeed. She laughed, soft as falling ash. He left at cockcrow, armored in smoke-gray plate. Red-dyed wolf surcoat scented faintly of pine resin. Jane watched from tower slit, tears gleaming. As gates thudded shut behind the pack, she whispered, Return. Northward they rode, Robb's wolf banner flanked by Karstark Sunburst, Umber Giant, Mormont Bear, Glover mailed fist. Gray wind patted despite limp, occasionally throwing muzzle skyward to sample crisping air. Each morn a little colder, breath pluming whiter. Villages along the King's Road greeted them with wary hope. At Queen's Crown peasants lined hemp-rope fences, offering barley cakes. Robb left double coin and a wagon of salt fish. At the ruined holdfast he found Winterfell refugees, old Nan's niece with 6 orphans huddled in collapsed sept. He ordered wagons emptied of blankets. Spread word, he told Greybeard Septon. The wolf comes home. 10 leagues south of Moat Cailin, a thunderstorm split sky, lashing with sleet. They camped beneath oaks, fire pits dug deep. Meege recounted tale of first long night, how the snow bears ate moonlight. Reed whispered songs of glass candles shining over flooded cities. Soldiers listened grim, flasks passing. At dawn, scouts galloped back. A column upon rode ahead, Bolton men under black banners. Panic rippled until Reed's spyglass revealed not flayed man but black wolf. Stark colors reversed. Robb spurred Grey Wind and met them at crossroads of Widow's Watch. There rode John Umber, heir to the Great John, leading 500 fresh Northmen from Last Hearth. He dismounted, grinning broad as the sunrise. Word reached our halls of treacherous trout and lion, he boomed. Father sent me south to taste the scraps. He slapped Robb's shoulder. Yet here I find King still breathing. Unusual. Robb laughed, warmth rare. Your timing perfect. We march home together. That night the joined hosts feasted on a freshly felled elk. John Umber brought casks of pine mead. Mormont women sang bawdy verses, and Reed's marsh flutes wove haunting counterpoint beneath. Robb sat with John under lantern glow, scanning letters just arrived. One bore dire seal, a white hand clutching black crown, symbol now used by Stannis Baratheon. The parchment was blunt. Robb Stark, false king. Cease your rebellion and bend knee to the one true King Stannis, chosen of R'hllor or face cleansing fire. It was signed by Melisandre of Ass High. John Umber snorted ale. Fire priest fancies herself Lord Paramount. Robb folded letter. Stannis should look north, not at me. He sees threat in all crowns but his. Robb sighed. If White Walkers breach, even Stannis will kneel to cold. Perhaps Melisandre's flames brighten when Whites draw near. The ruined walls of Winterfell rose out of morning fog 8 days later. Ash still blackened outer Bailey. Towers collapsed to jagged fangs. Yet within the ring wall new scaffolds sprouted. Manderley masons, tall heart carpenters, 100 small folk volunteers working under Ser Roderick Castle's stern eye. They cheered when banners appeared, their hammer clatter swelling to roar. Robb dismounted before the gatehouse stump where Grey direwolf head still hung charred. He knelt, pressed palm to ancient stone. Heat passed from skin into granite, warmth of blood renewed. Home, he whispered. Reconstruction Council convened in the half-ruined Great Hall, roof patched with waxed canvas. Roderick presented ledgers. Stone from rills, timber from Deepwood, grain stores delivered via White Harbor. If snows wait 2 moons, we shall roof the keep and stock cellars, he said. If not, we huddle like bears. Bears endure, Meej noted. She set her daughters to drilling militia archers atop new palisade towers. Howland Reed took charge of moat cisterns, unearthing forgotten crypt tunnels. Some collapsed, some leading to catacombs rumor said reached beneath First Keep. He claimed songs of dragonglass caches left by Bran the Builder. Within a week, marshmen hauled up crates of black-green blades from root cellars sealed by sapstone. The weapons glimmered like moonlit tar, each arrowhead as sharp as lies. Robb oversaw forges, smithing spearhooks to hold dragonglass shards. Children gathered ravens day-long, training the birds to carry flame oil vials strapped to legs, an idea from Reed's Swamp War. Grey Wind patrolled ramparts, howling at each dusk. His call echoed in Hollow Bailey, stirring hearts. Yet letters continued dark. Edmure wrote of Lannister agents sowing discord among Frey vassals. Little Lord Walder reported a fever pox sweeping the crossing. Worse, Asha's first parcel. At Bane Fort she torched 3 lion galleys, but Euron's silence sank 2 of her new-built hulls. She begged pitch barrels and healers, and always Jon Snow's ravens begged men, food, fire. Dire tales of giants beating drums, dead kings clad in ice, a she-thing riding pale moose among wailing thralls. Each message arrived singed at the edges, as if chilled fire burned the parchment. So 3 weeks after reclaiming Winterfell, Robb marched again. He left Roderick Castellan, Jane with Maester Luwin's pupils to rebuild Healer's Wing. 2,000 men rode north, Karstark cavalry, Umber foot, Mormont javelins, marshmen with dragonglass darts. Spear wagons rumbled bearing barrels of pitch and bags of hardtack. They passed the last river, where ice crusted its edges despite lingering green. They forded the White Knife over stone piers hammered to ice. At Mole's Town they found huts abandoned, doors torn off hinges, red footprints wandering into dark treeline. A gust carried faint howl not of wolf but of empty throats. Campfires burned blue some nights, no matter the wood. Reed's warriors strung wind chimes of bone toward spirits. Still some men woke screaming, frost-coating beards. Gray wind growled at unseen horrors until dawn. On the 7th day they reached the Shadow Tower, westernmost fort. Its garrison numbered less than 50. Lord Commander Jon Snow awaited them at the gate. Black cloak stiff with rime, hair dusted white. He embraced Robb tight, then turned grave. "You came," he said. "Not many would." Robb clasped his forearms. "Brothers keep watch." They met in a tower chamber warmed by peat fire. Samwell Tarly poured mulled mead while ravens rasped in cages. Jon unrolled a rough map of Frostfangs. Black blots marking dead villages, red strokes marking walker sightings. "They travel in tens now, not singles," he said. "Their shadows freeze wells." Fist fell. Weepers wildlings slain. Crasters keep found in gore. And there is something else. Sam swallowed. "The dead speak." He flinched as if expecting ridicule. "Whispers in the night. They call names, ours, our mothers. They want us outside." No one laughed. Robb remembered the chill in crypt tunnels beneath Winterfell, the hush of Stone Kings. "We brought dragonglass," he said. "What else?" Jon's eyes, half Targaryen gray, half stark dark, flicked to the hearth. "Fire," he whispered, "and hearts that will not break." That night snow fell heavy, smothering sound. Robb patrolled the west parapet, cloak iced to pauldrons. Jon paced opposite. Torches guttered violet in numbing wind. Across the gorge, forest loomed black, each branch a claw. Gray wind prowled restless, hackles prickling. Near midnight, a horn blew one long note from Eastwatch. Jon stiffened. "Ranger return," he murmured, though voice laced with doubt. 2 blasts for foe, 3 for others. Only one sounded. Minutes later, shapes emerged from forest path. 5 rangers, 2 wounded on sled, torches blew. Gates creaked. As they entered, wind died. The lead ranger, a wiry man named PYP, dropped helm. And for heartbeat silence reigned. Then every raven in tower cages shrieked. PYP's eyes were snowblind white. Frost veined his cheeks. "For the Night's King," he rasped, tongue black as wrought. He hurled a glass vial, nocturne fluid that burst in green flame arc. It shattered amid pitch barrels. Flames leapt dragon-high, scorching wall. Chaos erupted. Rangers with inturned blades on brothers. Silent, tears frozen on faces. "Whites!" Robb drew sword unthinking. Gray wind lunged. Jon shouted, "Dragonglass!" Guards fumbled for pouches. Flames licked rampart, over which rose shapes of blue-eyed horror. Thin as withered reeds, yet moving like dancers. Their blades shone moonlit crystal. One vaulted through fire, landing before Robb, smoke swirling. Its skin was luminous ice. Mouth parted in hiss. Robb parried, steel ringing chill shock. Sword nearly shattered, but dragonglass spear thrust up from flank, driven by Reed's daughter Mira. Black glass sank into the walker's chest. It screamed, shattering into snowflakes that whirled away on wind. Battle churned along wall top. Mormont women hurled jars of burning oil. Umber axes whistled. Karstark spears skewered whites that crawled like spiders. Samwell, shaking, loosed an arrow tipped with dragonglass. It struck a walker's throat, exploding frost. Jon faced 2 at once, Longclaw flashing pale fire as he cut a path to the gate lever. Robb fought toward him, gray wind snapping white limbs like brittle saplings. Flames roared behind as pitch ignited, but snow fell heavier, steam billowing. At the lever platform, a walker's blade sheared through a lantern rope. Light crashed, oil sloshed, and in that blaze Robb and Jon stood back to back, breathing ragged. "Brothers," Jon said, voice hoarse, "like old times." "Without brands stealing our arrows," Robb answered. They charged opposite directions, twin wolves in storm. Robb slid beneath spear of an ice-white, severed knee. John vaulted parapet, kicking Walker into gorge. Reed darts zipped overhead. The tide turned as more dragonglass found mark. Finally John reached the lever and heaved. Gate slammed shut, severing arms of whites clawing through. Dawn bled gray over ruin. Ramps blackened, corpses of men and monsters strewn like felled trees. Smoke curled into pale sky. Of 5 returning rangers none lived. Their bodies lay peacefully now, freed. Rob knelt by PYP, eyelids closed by Sam's trembling fingers. Snowflakes melted on blood-splattered cheeks. John approached, eyes rimmed red. "They will not stop," he said. "Neither will we." Rob clasped his shoulder. "We hold here. Rally more from Winterfell. Call banners of valley and frost." John shook head. "The wall alone fails. We must ride beyond. Strike the Night's King on his own ground. Cut the frost heart." Gloom thickened until Reed spoke, soft but certain. "There is a place of power in the haunted forest. An obsidian monolith older than memory. Children called it Heart of the Night. Break it, and the walker's song loses breath."
Rap met Jon's Kees.
"Then we ride beyond the wall, brother. Wolves together." The direwolf howled, long and clear, echoing across ice fields. Men shivered yet straightened. In that note sounded defiance, promise, and sorrow for all to come. And so the war of snow and shadow truly began. The king in the north and the bastard of Winterfell marching side by side into frozen dusk, dragonglass shining black as midnight hope, hearts blazing hotter than Lawleress false fire. Somewhere far south lions sharpened claws, krakens plotted tides, and a queen in gray stone prayed for her wolf's return. But on that wind-razored edge of the world, none of it mattered. Only the next breath in the cold, the next step over drift, the next beat of a pair of hearts bound by blood stronger than iron chains. They vanished beyond the gate as sun cracked thin horizon, leading men who would seed legend. Mormont bears trudging through snow, umber giants singing to keep fear at bay, Crannogmen silent as fog, Karstark riders cloaked like midnight. Above them ravens wheeled, black quills catching first light, messengers to a realm that still squabbled over crowns while death strode nearer on crystal feet. Winterfell's rebuilt towers caught dawn gold on new stone as tents emptied. Yet Jane Westerling stood atop battlement, hand to swollen belly, feeling life flutter beneath. She watched the white expanse swallow dark specks of the host. Tears gleamed, but she smiled, whispering the old words of House Stark. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. In the distance, a single direwolf howl drifted back, thin, determined, unbroken, carried on rising wind toward every corner of a fractured realm. A call older than language, promising that though nights lengthen and fires dwindle, hope can still walk on for silent paws through endless snow. PGSQL. Snow whispered over the shadow tower like sifted ash, filling pockmarks left by fire and frost alike. Robb Stark stood upon the parapet in pre-dawn gloom, gazing north where a ribbon of pale violet split the horizon. Behind him the courtyard lay hushed but for muted clink of harness as the host prepared to march beyond the wall. He felt the hush within himself too, a steadying silence before the heartbeat of battle began its drum. Jon Snow stepped from the stairwell, cloak snapping in wind. "Sunrise," he said softly, "such as it is." Robb followed the ghostlight to a break in the cloud bank. "Every dawn we breathe is one less for the darkness." He drew his gauntlets on and turned. Below, gray wind threaded between packed sledges, sniffing bundles of dragonglass. The gate yawned open with a winch groan that echoed the moan of shifting ice. Beyond lay the haunted forest, trees frosted pearl and violet in half-light. First through were Reed scouts, near invisible beneath snownet capes. Behind them padded Karstark outriders leading shaggy garrons, hooves muffled in white. Umberfoot slogged next, double rows hauling sledges laden with casks of fire oil harvested from long lake tarbeds. Mormont women closed the column, axes furred with frost, songs low as they paced. Jon rode beside Robb at the point. "We steer east first," he said. nodding to a narrow game trail between skeletal pines. A rise called Ghost's Hill overlooks the valley of the Milkwater. Ranging parties reported the heart of the night somewhere beyond. Then we climb. Rob tightened scarf about throat. Step quick, breathe slow. To their flanks wraith-like ravens fluttered, dark blotches against snowfields. Samwell Tarley muttered prayers beneath breath as he marched with the raven cages. Each croak seemed chorus to his fear. The forest swallowed them. Ice-laden branches sagged overhead, releasing powdery spills when disturbed. Wind breathed through pine needles like distant pipe music.
No versang.
Twice Reed halted the column to examine clawed tracks. Wolf, aye, but each pad near as broad as Helmface. Snow dire wolves, he whispered. Northern cousins to yours. Gray wind sniffed and rumbled, hackles raised. By midday they reached a frozen stream meandering shallow as memory. The water beneath ice was ink-black, unmoving. As the men filled skins, a Karstark spearman glanced down and stiffened. Below the crystal pane a pale face stared back, boyish features rimmed by ice filaments, mouth parted in drowned scream. Before they could break through, the corpse drifted into darkness like a leaf on slow tide. "The dead guide you us," Sam murmured. "Or lure," John answered. He ordered no water taken from that stream. They pressed on. Snow fell heavier by late afternoon, thick flakes swirling with hypnotic grace. The trail narrowed to a rocky defile. Reed signaled halt. His spear tapped a buried stone rim. Old First Men barrow, half collapsed. Runes scored its capstone. 3 concentric spirals now half erased by lichens. Reed knelt, brushed frost. "More sign," he breathed. "Warning. Blood fed here keeps dusk asleep." Meej snorted. "Dusk's awake already." Yet she ordered torches lit, oil thick on ragheads. Orange halos flickered across walls of snow. Near dusk they emerged onto Ghost's Hill, a humpback of limestone piercing tree line. The climb was treacherous, shale broken and slick. Men hacked toeholds, hauled ropes, curses swallowed by wind. Gray wind scrambled ahead, sure-footed despite bandaged flank. From the summit the world splayed vast, a white ocean of drifts and dark ribs of forest, the milk-water snaking silver far below before vanishing into mist. And there, leagues distant in a basin of glimmering snow, rose a spike of obsidian, a monolith so black it devoured the last light, flanked by jagged sculptures of ice. Hearts thudded. Even ungodly distance could not blur the malice that seemed to radiate from that stone. Reed exhaled plume. "Heart of the night," he confirmed. John's jaw clenched. "We strike before moonrise." But Rob touched his arm. "We are days away yet and our men spent. We need shelter and scouting, not blind charge." They made camp in a ring of snow-buried boulders. Fires crackled, sending sparks that whirled like fireflies against black sky. Karstark tents formed inner ring. Umber shields barricaded leeward side. John set double watches. Reed's people strung gossamer nets of sinew and bone along perimeter. "Webs that sing," he explained. If any creature larger than fox touched, the bone needles would shriek like owls. Rob toured sentries until night's heart. He found Sam tending ravens near the largest fire, copying John's latest dispatch onto crisp hide. March reaches Ghost's Hill. Heart of night sighted. Spirits keen. Sam's hand trembled so the ink splattered. "You fear," Rob noted gently. Sam managed a nod. "Everyone. But I remember Craster's, Lord Stark. The smell when they came. That cold. None of us came back the same." Rob crouched, stirring embers. Sparks jumped. "I learned young that courage is not lack of fear, Sam. It's riding with it, never letting reins slip." He smiled weary. "And if fear bucks you, remember those behind depend on you to climb again."
Sam breathed steadier, ink strokes straightening.
Second dawn rose blotted gray. Reed scouts returned breathless. Wildling survivors camped southwest, 100 or more under tattered weirwood banners. John's eyes lit. "They may guide through the valleys." He proposed parley at once. Rob led 40. John, Reed, Meej, Great John, a dozen marshbowmen, and Karstark outriders. They descended the far slope, snow crunching. By midday smoke columns marked wildling fires. Whistles carried. Soon a thin line of warriors appeared. Men clad in patchwork furs, half-starved. Their chief stepped forward. Woman tall as umber, hair white-streaked, wielding spear of weirwood sprouting green buds even in frost. "I am Harma the Spear Wife," she proclaimed. "We fled the Crow King's call, but whites dog our heels. Why should we trust kneelers?" Jon dismounted, removing helm to show stark features. "Because I was Lord Commander of the Watch," he said, "and I broke vows to save your folk once. I will again if you aid us to break the darkness." Her gaze flicked to Robb. "You the Wolf King?" A tired man needful of brave friends. Robb offered a skin of northern ale. She drank, wiped mouth. "We lead you by Goat's Knee Pass," she said. "But if you fail, your dead will rise too." "We all rise or fall tonight," Robb answered. The alliance sealed, the wildlings folded into column. Ragged but fierce, their children riding shaggy dogs. Reed adjusted route. Goat's Knee wound east between granite teeth, bypassing ice-choked ravine. Movement quickened. Still, sky darkened early. Swirling drifts sometimes erased the world to white void where only howling wind existed. That night the webs sang. Bone needles screamed shrill enough to shred dreams. Robb leapt from bedroll, sword bare. Shadows stormed camp perimeter, white shapes hurling themselves through nets, sinew cords cutting their fleshless arms. Arrows hissed, torches flared. Gray wind exploded into fray, snagging throat of a half-rotted giant. The beast crashed, bringing down Pine. Robb rallied Karstarks to hold west flank. Great John and Meege broke east line with shield wall. Across fires he glimpsed Jon dueling a walker, blue glare reflecting off Valyrian steel. Longclaw severed the creature's arm. Dragonglass spear from Reed's son Jojen punctured chest, and the walker shattered, shards slicing air. Yet more came. Phantom wolves of ice bounding between tents, long tails trailing freeze mist. They pounced men, jaws clamping with frostbite sting. Sam flung fire oil, engulfing one. Its yelp sounded like grinding stone. As chaos peaked, a horn blast tore through night, 3 notes, long, longer, longest. Reed gasped. Others. Everyone faltered an instant. From darkness near-silent figures glided, pale as starlight, armor of rime crystalline. Their leader carried spear of smoky glass shot with opalescent veins, pointed at Robb across chaos. Something stirred inside him, a recognition, like mirror turned on nightmare. The air about the White Walker shivered, snow swirling inward as though breathing. Robb stepped forward, dragonglass spear in hand, but gray wind leapt between raising hackles. A clash louder than thunder, the walker's spear met gray wind's jaws mid-snap. Ice filmed the direwolf's teeth. The beast yelped but held firm. Robb stabbed. The dragonglass slid beneath armor. For heartbeat nothing. Then the walker screamed, soundless, body fissuring. It exploded in shimmering crystals that whirled away on wind. Remaining walkers drew back, stoic faces unreadable. The whites faltered, shuddered, collapsed as if strings severed. Silence fell shattered only by distant rustle of wind. Dawn found 18 Northmen dead, 19 wildlings, 6 whites burnt still twitching. Gray wind's muzzle bled but teeth remained whole. Robb bound the wound with linen soaked in boiled pine sap. Harma's surviving warriors built cairns of ice for their dead, chanting guttural laments. Jon watched, eyes grim. If walkers guard the heart, they now know our strength. And weakness, Robb added, glancing at fuel stores halved by fire. Tomorrow we move again. 3rd day from Ghosts Hill they reached the Valley of the Milkwater. A bowl cradled by snow cliffs, the river frozen solid except where hot springs steamed faint. At center rose the heart of the night, 200 feet of murderous obsidian, flaked sides like dragonglass napped by gods. Around it spread a forest of ice sculptures. Spires, arches, serpents mid-coil, artistry macabre in moonlight. They glimmered blue-white as if lit from within by trapped stars. The host took position on ridge, sledges forming makeshift barricades. Reed studied the field. "These ice forms are not random," he whispered. "They mark lines of power, sigils." He traced one serpentine shape. Dragon devouring its own tail, eternal night cycle. John ordered silent approach. Archers knock dragonglass, wildlings slip flank, Reed's small folk scout for fishers. Robb readied assault column. Umber infantry batter first ring, Karstark lancers draw any whites, Reed's darts pick walkers, Mormonts guard the rear. As they descended, air grew colder than thought possible. Breath froze to lashes. Metal stuck to flesh. Torches dimmed to blue. The ice sculptures loomed, towering. One shaped like maiden wept frozen tears. Cracks beneath eyes dripped ice shards. Robb pressed gloved palm to nearest spire. It vibrated faint, like RP string low. Machinery of winter turning. "Here," John said at his shoulder, pointing to a narrow gap where ice arcs curved towards monolith. "A funnel." Robb nodded, enemy's kill zone, but also path to heart. He lifted sword in silent order. The pack advanced. They made 50 paces before the sculptures began to move. At first merely a groan, then ice cracked, limbs unfolded. A knight of frost stepped from arch. Behind it a wyvern of crystal stretched wings. Further shapes awakened, dozens. Eyes glowed corpse blue. The valley erupted. Arrows flew. Dragonglass shattered some, but figures reformed, shards swirling into shape anew. "They remake!" Reed cried. Great John roared and charged, axe smashing an ice bear. Shards sprayed, but limbs nodded back. Karstark spears impaled wolf statues, yet wounds sealed. "The monolith feeds them," John shouted above cacophony. "Destroy the heart." Robb realized same, defeating guardians futile while monolith stood. He signaled Reed. The crannogmen scattered, lit fuses on fire oil casks, rolling them ahead as living shields fought. Mormont women hurled javelins, clearing path. Robb seized a cask on sled. Gray wind at his side. John mounted a Garen. Together they plunged. Crystal wyvern swooped. Robb ducked under snap. John slashed wings. An ice knight stabbed. Gray wind slammed. Teeth-crushing knee joint. Reed dart finished with glass dagger. They reached monolith base, a sheer wall slick as polished mirror. At its foot a ring of glyphs glowed faint azure. Robb felt searing cold radiate. "Set charges," he barked. Mormont and Karstark soldiers unloaded fire oil. Reed sprinkled powder of crushed dragonglass and ground fiery pepper from Sithorios, murmuring in the tongue of the marsh mystics. Sam dragged ravens back, eyes wide. Ice guardians converged. Great John held choke point, bellowing songs, axe blazing with stolen torch flame. Men fell around him, but Ring held. "Fuse!" John cried.
Scoot litar soktrop.
Hissed ember crawling. Robb and John hauled bodies of wounded behind spire of broken sculpture. Time slowed. Ember pulsed along fuse, reflection flicking across monolith. Each pulse seemed heartbeat. Robb thought of Winterfell halls, of Jane's silent prayers, of unborn child. Then the world became white-blue light. Explosion thundered, throwing him to snow. Ears rang, eyes blinded. When sight returned, he saw monolith fractured. Cracks zigzagging skyward, obsidian bleeding azure light. Ice guardians stuttered, faltered. Some froze mid-lunge, bodies splintering to shards. A second crack echoed like mountain splitting. The monolith toppled, section tearing free, crashing onto frozen river. Black fragments scattered, each piece sizzling where it lay. An unearthly wail rose, vibrating snowdrifts, rattling teeth. Silence after deep as graves. Figures moved among ruin, Northmen raising helms, wildlings blinking awe, Reed kneeling to taste air. John stood over broken chunk, long claw point resting. Robb staggered to him. "Is it done?" Before answer, the world groaned again, deeper, from earth's marrow. Frost spires quaked. Snow parted where monolith had rooted. A chasm yawned. From its depths spilled a black mist glittering with cold sparks. Out of that mist rose a tall shape cloaked in swirling darkness, visage obscured but for eyes, stars trapped in ice. His presence extinguished torch flames, bent moonlight. Men trembled. Reed murmured, "Night's king." The being surveyed ruin, then lifted hand. Shards of obsidian trembled, rose swirling about like satellites. White's littered ground began twitching. "Fall back," John shouted, but feet stuck. Frost crept over boots. Gray wind lunged yet froze midair, ice chains snaring. The Night's King spoke in crack of glacier. Words no tongue knew, yet meaning clear, despair. Rob felt heart seize. Images flooded. Winterfell again aflame, Jane's cry, babe born still, world drowned in night. He clamped jaw, forced breath. Through haze he saw dragonglass spear still clutched. Reed's words echoed, "Blood fed here keeps dusk asleep." He sliced his palm, crimson splattering snow. He thrust bleeding hand onto spear haft, then hurled it at Night's King. The blade pierced swirling dark, embedding chest. Light flared crimson. The king staggered. Mist writhed. Ice chains shattered, freeing gray wind. John broke free, sprinting. Fire oil remaining ignited along dropped torch line, blooming ring of heat. The Night's King withdrew spear. Blood hissed to vapor. With a gesture he dissolved into clouds swept by wind. Retreat, not defeat. Whites collapsed, ice spires slouched. Dawn seeped pale yellow above eastern cliffs. Rob slumped, blood dripping. John caught him, supporting. "We live," Rob rasped. "For now," John said. He looked at crater where monolith once stood. "But winter still comes." They buried dead, melted ice guardians to puddles with fire oil. Survivors numbered fewer than half who'd marched. Yet the forest felt changed. Air tasted less bitter, colors warmer, as if pale sun regained strength. Reed examined monolith shards. "Night's heart cracked but still beats," he warned. "It will seek new vessel." "We'll be waiting," Rob vowed, hand bandaged with bare fur strip. His blood still stained spear, now dull but whole. They turned south for wall, bearing wounded and the shards in sealed chests. Camp Harma knelt. "You broke the dark pole," she said. "Free folk owe life. We go south soon. Fight for you if lions come." Rob clasped her arm. "When the song of night rises again, we'll howl together." She grinned toothy. Return to Shadow Tower was triumphant and mournful both. Rangers lined rampart, cheering. Horns blew. Sam released ravens, each message clipped with shard of broken monolith, the proof and warning. That night around roaring hearth, John sliced bread with Valyrian steel while Rob recounted battle for Maester's quills. "Not victory," he finished, "but reprieve earned by blood." Gray wind slept at his feet, dreams whimpering. Outside snow fell gentle, flakes catching firelight like sparks. Rob thought of Jane waiting, of babe to be born into world still at war but not without hope. "Tomorrow," John said quietly, "we send riders east and west. Every holdfast must know the darkness is mortal." Rob nodded. "And I ride south. Winterfell needs rebuilding. Riverlands need reigniting. West must burn with Kraken's fury. But first, a letter to Queen in the Crossing. Tell her the night was pushed back a step by wolves." They raised cups of hot wine, touching rims. The fire crackled, lids heavy. For fleeting hours the bastard and the king sat as brothers by hearth, and outside the white silence of a world in pause, as if winter itself drew breath to decide its next move. At Winterfell, dawn's sunlit snow cloaked ramparts freshly hewn. Jane pressed hand to belly, feeling child kick. Far off, on keep's highest stone, a single raven perched bearing shard of night-black glass tied with red ribbon. The bird croaked, head cocked to hearth smoke rising from chimneys. She unknotted ribbon, held shard against light. In its gloss she saw Rob's reflection, his smile of boy chasing summers now, superimposed upon her face. She kissed the glass, whispered to babe, "Your father keeps the dark at bay." Below, masons hammered. Wolves howled in Godswood. not in mourning now but in anthem. North still bled, but the pack survived, and in frozen wastes of memory, the monolith lay broken, Night's heart cracked by King Wolf's blood. Yet far across angry seas, in halls of blackened stone, a crow-eyed kraken pondered sky maps, and in crumbling red keep a lioness queen examined ravens of frost, and on Dragonstone a king of ash measured leaping flames against rising cold. All felt the shift, the heartbeat lost. War for dawn had only begun, and high on a shelf of the world, amid drifting snow, the night's king gathered shards of obsidian drawn by unseen gravity. In his cupped palms blood of wolf still steamed. In that steam images writhed Winterfell hearth, unborn babe, queen's hopeful eyes. He closed fist, the snow around silenced, sky blackened, but through clenched fingers a single drop of wolf blood slipped, searing path through ice, melting into earth below. First ember of dawn yet to blaze. The night's king turned northward to his shattered dominion, cloak billowing like storm clouds. The wind carried distant echo of wolves howling. He listened, then strode on into swirling dark, plotting next nightfall. Somewhere beyond him, ravens took wing bearing word south. The heart of the night lies broken, the cold king wounded, but heed winter fights on, and across frozen, thawing valleys, torches flared anew, each a star in gathering dusk, waiting for the king who bled for dawn to come home and rally lights against the long shadow yet to fall. PGSQL. In the hushed hours before farewell, Robb walked the length of the Shadow Tower's yard to memorize every torchlit stone. All around him men stirred like ghosts released from a dream, dousing fires, coiling ropes, testing half-frozen bowstrings. The air still carried echoes of the heart's collapse, a faint ringing in the bone that no one could shake, as though the valley itself had not yet agreed to die. Snowflakes whirled over the battlements and melted against hot lamplight so quickly they seemed sparks instead of ice, and in each bright wink Robb saw the road south, the tangled web of wolves and lions and krakens waiting to snare his feet. Jon joined him beneath the wooden murder hole that still reeked of pitch. They said little. Sometimes brothers shared more by the silence they kept than any vow, and the horrors of 2 nights past hung too raw for easy words. When they parted, Jon clasped Robb's bracer, then drew a leather pouch from his belt. "The largest shard," he said, placing it in Robb's palm. "If the night's king seeks a vessel, best we carry a piece where we can watch it." Robb weighed the obsidian fragment in his hand. Edges jagged, surface slick as oil, it seemed almost warm, though whether from hidden flame or his own blood he could not tell. "I'll carve it into a pommel," he promised. "No hand but mine will wield it." They embraced. Over Jon's shoulder Robb glimpsed Samwell Tarly tying message tubes to Raven's legs, eyes bright with mead-fueled courage. Behind him the Cranach twins, Jojen and Mira, packed bundles of reed-woven bells that sang when shaken. Somewhere on the wall Grey Wind traded low growls with Jon's white direwolf, as if the beast shared some private counsel beyond men's ken. Before first light the southbound column filed through the gate. Tall Richards and ragged free folk, reed hunters and Bear Island daughters, mules dragging sledges of wounded wrapped head to heel. Harma the spearwife raised her weirwood spear in salute until the last stragglers disappeared. Then the portcullis groaned shut, sealing them apart. For 2 days the march retraced their frozen track. Without the burden of powder casks and oil they moved faster, though grief weighed heavier than any barrel. At dusk the column wound through stands of pine whose trunks bled sap like amber tears. Reed folk claimed the forest mourned each tree felled for the wall, and Robb began to believe it. One night he woke to wind keening around branches in a tune so mournful that garrison veterans crossed themselves. On the 3rd noon they reached the wall itself, a glittering barricade of blue-white stone stretching across the earth like some titan spine. Sunlight lanced off its crystalline face until eyes watered. Every crack and ridge seemed newly carved, as though the walker's retreat had etched fresh scars. Black brothers lined the ice with torches to hail the victors. Bowen Marsh even attempted a cheer, but it died in his throat when he counted the empty saddles. The survivors tarried only long enough to reshoe horses and replenish grain from the watch's meager bins. Jon gave Robb a scroll sealed with black wax, accounts of provisions promised by Eastwatch, a list of slain brothers, and beneath the tally a single prayer, hold fast. When the gates clanged open again, Robb led them under ice archway and back into realm of mortal lords. Each mile south loosened winter's grip. Trees thickened, snowdrifts turned slush, and the first hardy crows cawed from bare limbs. Yet no traveler dared the King's Road. Villages they passed lay deserted or burned. Doors barred from within by rotting beams, goat pens torn open by raiders, gardens trampled to brown husks. In one hamlet a woman sat frozen upright on stoop, babe swaddled to her breast, both stiff as carved marble. Robb ordered quick graves dug and said the words himself, voice hoarse. On the sixth night smoke glowed on horizon, winter fell. Even in ruin the castle shed a warm halo, torches sparkling upon newly thatched roofs. As the column approached, banners snapped in freshening wind. Direwolf silver on gray, crowned bear, mailed fist, sunburst. From outer ramparts horns sounded a welcome. The main gate hung restored, dented plates replaced with pine beams bound by rawhide. A young girl released a lantern skyward, its oiled silk fluttering like a fiery moth. Roderick Castle met Robb in the yard, mustaches bristling, tears shining. "My lord, your grace." "King indeed," he stammered, voice breaking. "We feared. Fears kept us honest," Robb answered, dismounting into his arms. He gripped the old master-at-arms so tight bones popped. Behind them gray wind bounded through slush toward the kennels, loosing a triumphant howl that rang off half-built towers. Dogs within answered in excited cacophony. They found Jane waiting by the weirwood, cloak swept around her like fallen snow. Her face had filled since the crossing, cheeks flushed with hearth fire, yet her eyes held quiet storms. She stepped forward, palms flat over her belly, and Robb sank to his knees on the damp moss to embrace both mother and unborn in one crushing circle. Neither spoke, language fled them, but tears warmed their chilled skin as easily as any blanket. That night Winterfell feasted. Cookfires seared elk haunch and boar ribs, stew pots bubbled thick with root vegetables harvested from hidden cellars. Mira Reed produced jars of sour leaf jam, which Great John declared sour enough to wake a dead man's pizzle. Harma the spearwife arm-wrestled Meej Mormont upon a table until the legs collapsed. Even the castle ghosts seemed to join. Some swore they heard faint laughter in unused corridors. Amid riotous song, Robb raised a horn. "We broke the shadow's spear," he said. "We carve new dawn from the dark and stand as one pack, Stark and Karstark, Reed and Bear, free folk and crows." He paused to let cheers rise. "But I will not stain this hall with further promises tonight. Eat, drink, remember the fallen. Tomorrow we plan." And plan they did. At first light, he gathered his council beneath the war tent pitched where Maester Luwin's rookery once stood. Reed unrolled hide maps. Bryndon's raven-delivered letters sat stacked by date. Pink wax from the crossing, oily black from Pike, pulped red from Riverrun. Edmure wrote of siege. Ser Davin Lannister had mustered 5,000 outside Riverrun's crannied walls, trenches filling with spring runoff. Every day scorpion bolts hammered stone. Every night fiery pots sailed over battlements. Food dwindled. Blackfish had slipped free again, harassing lines, but Davin's strangle thickened. Little Lord Walder pleaded for aid as pox ravaged the crossing. Some new flux that blackened tongues before stopping hearts. He suspected poison, perhaps Bolton vengeance or Lannister trickery. Worse, brigand companies roamed from Derry to Maidenpool wearing lion cloaks sewn from stolen banners to sow fear. From White Harbor, Lord Wyman reported Tycho Nestoris of the Iron Bank docking with contracts for adjustment of northern debts. The Fat Lord suggested detaining the Bravosi until the realm settled, but feared reprisal. Asha's sand-scarred missive told of victory at Case Yet Ruin at Faircastle, where Euron's silence sank 3 of her longships with greenfire shot from sleek iron trebuchets. She begged pitch and heavy timber, else she must flee west and risk losing the reach advantage. All the while ravens from the wall, Jon's neat script, spoke of Walker scouts regrouping, whites shambling under hollow trees, the Night's King unseen but felt like weight of unseen storm. The respite would not last. We fight a war on 5 roads, Brynden growled, stabbing Talon at map. West, east, river, coast, and the damned night. He met Robb's eyes. History says pick one foe, crush, then march on next. Harma cracked knuckles. Better to stab 10 foes so none dares strangle. We cannot scatter, Roderick argued. Winterfell still lacks full walls. The babe your grace's heir. His cheeks reddened. Forgive me, a father must think on legacies. Robb lifted shard-pommeled sword, laying flat upon table. Legacies mean nothing if the long night returns. My first pledge remains to hold the wall. Yet if Riverrun falls, Trident floods with lions. If White Harbor bends to bravos, food fails. If the crossing collapses, North starves. Howland Reed's gray-green eyes studied the obsidian blade. Then cut the knot, he murmured. A king cannot be everywhere, but a pack moves many bodies with one mind. So they parted tasks. Robb would ride west with Great John, Karstark outriders, and 200 Crannog bowmen to relieve Riverrun, linking with Blackfish to smash Davin's siege. At the same hour, Meage Mormont would march east, leading Manderley levies and spearwives by ship along White Knife to deter Braavosi demands and guard port against Ironborn raids. Harma the Spearwife and Reed twins would escort Maester wagons south to the Twins, bearing medicine, garlic tincture, rosehip syrup, sweet sleep dew, to stem the pox. They would fortify the bridge until Robb's return. A corps of masons remained to finish Winterfell's walls under Roderick. And there remained the shard. Reed advised smelting it into steel. Sam insisted it must stay intact for study. Jojen muttered prophecy, blood mirror in mind's eye, before coughing crimson into a rag. At last, Jon's letter settled debate. Send me the shard. Night's king tastes wolf blood. Perhaps we bait him. Reluctantly, Robb bound it in runed leather and handed it to a swift messenger crow. Jane spent the parting dawn leaning against rampart, watching her husband gird in new gray steel plate wrought by Mott's apprentice. She tried to joke that he looked smaller in iron, though truth was opposite. When he kissed her, she pressed a silk ribbon to his breast. For luck, he asked. For return, she corrected, tears unshed. Luck seldom answers, but love must. Gray wind licked her hand, muzzle already healing. Guard her, Robb told the direwolf, but the beast only huffed, as if to say he guarded more than one heart at a time. The westbound host streamed through Wintertown under a sleet that rattled gutters. Farmers knelt by shattered walls, eyes wide. A girl with hair like flax stumbled forward, offering a single crocus, the first of spring. Robb tucked the bloom behind saddle strap, promising he would plant it in Riverland soil once freed. They followed the King's Road south, mud-sucking hooves. 2 days out, they overtook a rag cart of Umbers fleeing Whites upriver. The men took them in, adding axes to vanguard. On the 5th day, Reed scouts repper. Ted smoke rising near the ruins of the Dreadfort. A lone rider under half-flayed banner approached, waving white cloth. Domeric Bolton, thin but alive. Bastard Walder's men had abandoned the castle, taking silver and hostages east towards Stony Shore. Domeric begged chance to serve. Robb accepted, though Karstarks muttered. At Queen's Crown, they turned west into the Greenwater Vale. Once bright with barley, the valley now lay a chessboard of charred fields. Burnt husks of windmills jutted like broken fingers. Scouts caught 3 lion-cloaked riders torching granaries. Under questioning, they revealed Saltpan's garrison had splintered into foraging bands, each vying to impress Ser Davin by starving the fishlords. Robb burned none in revenge. Instead, he offered them choice. Ride north and turn traitor to their cause, or swing. 2 chose gallows. The 3rd whispered word of a red woman preaching at Harrenhal, setting fires that burn without wood. None knew more. By the edge of the Blackwater rush, Blackfish's outriders met them. Lean men with river trout blazon crests dented. Their story shaped the next move. Davin's siege ring formed 3 camps. North Hedge under banner of Roaring Lion, East Berm commanded by Ser Harry Swift, and South Causeway run by Selsword Tithe to Orbain Frey. The river wrapped Riverrun east to south, leaving only Mudmarsh to west. Siege engines pounded day and night, but Davin refused assaults after losing 200 in earlier ladder rush. He starved them. Robb studied sketched ground, finger-tapping West Marsh. Night raids here, he said. Tide rises twilight, softening earth. Umberfoot slogs where nights bog. He tasked Reed Bowman with swimming the river upstream, floating kegs of lamp oil for signal. Blackfish would sortie at second bell with all remaining garrison. At dusk the storm came, clouds packed like brews, thunder rolling flat across plains. When rain began, it fell straight and torrential, drumming siege tents like hail. Beneath that curtain Robb led 300 in sodden leathers through sedge thick as spears. Lightning flashed, exposed battered mantlets looming ahead. He signaled. Arrows streaked from riverbank, blue fletch glinting. Umber roars split night. They erupted from reed like bears unchained, axes carving through pickets drowsy with wine. Torches hissed, tents flamed where soaked cloth still caught oil. Gray wind bounded, dragging lions screaming into mud. Thunder masked their fury until it was too late. Davin tried to rally, bellowing orders astride destrier that sank to girth. Robb charged. Their blades met in downpour, sparks lost to water. Davin swung heavy, strength of the rock behind each stroke, but Robb wove lighter, dragonglass-edged steel flickering. Gray wind harried the warhorse's flanks, and when the beast reared, Robb's pommel shattered Davin's helm crest. One kick toppled the lord into mire, where Umber shield bore him down. On eastern berm Swift saw the conflagration rise and ordered assault to draw garrison. Yet as his men waited Moat a hidden gate burst and Blackfish arrow storm cut them like reeds. From southern causeway Sellswards advanced, but Urbane Frey fell to crossbow quarrel from his own drunk sergeant. Chaos consumed chain of command. By dawn lion standards lay in flaming heaps. Survivors knelt along riverbank, helms piled. Blackfish trudged through mud to clasp Robb. "You are late," he chided, but eyes shone. "I saved finest eel for you." Riverrun's people wept as gates swung wide. Ser Desmond Grell fainted at sight of recovered king. Maester Vyman reported stores enough for a month, perhaps 2 with rationing. Robb commanded half-wagon loads of Umber salted pork to supplement, and posted Karstark archers on walls. Yet war rarely grants breath. Ravens bore grim tidings. Meage's fleet halted near mouth of the White Knife by Bravosi galleys. Iron Bank threatened embargo over Old Stark debts and demanded Jane's dowry lands as collateral. The pox at the twins worsened. Little Lord Walder now took fever. Worse, John's most recent letter began with fire-blackened edges. Shard stolen, ranger slain, suspect Crow deserter under Frostfang's banner. Walker scouts growing bold again.
Sentmin.
Robb's war council convened in Riverrun Solar, rains pelting shutters. Blackfish argued to strike Harrenhal and capture the red which fueling fear. Great John favored ride east to sever Bravosi banks before gold poisoned White Harbor. Reed pressed return north. Without Shard the wall trembled. Robb felt torn threads slip through fingers. He withdrew to Godswood to think. The heart tree there, lesser than Winterfell's but venerable still, bled sap tears down cracked face. Robb knelt in wet moss, sword laid across lap. He spoke softly, not expecting answer, yet wind stirred leaves overhead and river roar hushed just enough to carry distant howl of wolves. In that hush he sensed old hands on shoulders. His father's, Maester Luwin's, even Ned Dane's ghost from distant campfires. Each whisper urged one truth. A pack is many souls, but the Alpha decides. He rose with dawn's gray glow. In Hall of Banners still dripping he spoke. Night's king steals our blood and sword alike. Without Shard the wall may fall. Then every victory south is ash. We march north again. Groans, disbelief, but none denied. Blackfish volunteered to hold Riverlands with rivermen and Karstarks. Reed would ride swift to warn Mormonts and gather free companies. Great John insisted on escort. They rode 200 strong, following fever-swollen river east, then angling into neck. Rain gave way to sleet, sleet to snow once more. Near the inn of the kneeling man they heard horns, 3 blasts faint. Whites, too far from wall. Scouts crept ahead, returning pale. Lannister foragers cut down, bodies left spread in spiral pattern, limbs twisted backwards, signature of walkers. Grim urgency drove them on. At Moat Cailin, Frey banners drooped half-mast. Harma met them, face ash. The pox had killed 1 in 3. Bastard Walder's poison confirmed. Lime water tainted with corpse rot. She feared infiltration. Robb left healers and pressed. Winterfell appeared under iron sky, walls finished but untested. Jane met him beneath new portcullis, babe hidden by cloak's fur. Yet as Robb embraced her he felt dread. Grey wind would not approach. The dire wolf circled, hackles high, sniffing the babe then retreating with growl. "What is it?" Jane asked, alarmed. The babe mewled soft, swaddled in grey cloth embroidered with red wolf. Eyes still shut, but cheeks flushed. Maester Luwin hurried. "She is healthy, strong lungs, good weight. Born 4 nights ago." Pride warred with exhaustion in his eyes. Robb cradled his daughter. "Lyanna," Jane whispered. The name pierced him. Snowflakes kissed the infant's brow, refusing to melt. He brushed them away. That eve feasting resumed, but grey wind paced ramparts, refusing warmth. Reed climbed parapet to join the beast. They listened to howls beyond treeline, distant yet drawing nearer, and Reed's brow furrowed. "What do you smell, old friend?" he whispered. Grey wind lowered head, teeth bared, gaze fixed on inner yard. At midnight horns sounded, one faint, then second stronger. Gatehouse watch cried alarm. Riders inbound, banners unknown. Robb pulled cloak and strode out. Torches flared as 6 horses clattered across drawbridge. Their leader dismounted, black cloak sewn with orange flames, sigil of R'hllor. He removed helm, Stannis Baratheon. Lines carved his face deeper than Robb recalled from parley at Storm's End years before. Behind him, fire-red woman astride palfrey-studded walls, lips curved. "King in the north," Stannis rasped. "Throne's war ends tonight. Bend knee and join the light, or be purged." Torches sputtered. Snow hush deepened. Robb stepped forward, infant still in arms. Grey wind bounded down, planting between kings. "This is my light," Robb answered, raising babe. "Not your red god's flame, nor Cersei's wildfire, nor Braavosi gold can claim it. Kneel, Lord Stannis, and join the pack, or freeze outside these walls." A hush so complete even banners stilled. Then the red woman spoke, voice silk on steel. "Azor Ahai must forge kingdom in fire, not snow." Robb met her gaze, the shard's absence keen as phantom limb. "Azor Ahai might find more than fire in heart of winter," he said. In the distance a dire wolf howled. Another answered. Wind gusted, snuffing torches. Grey wind's eyes glowed in dark like twin embers caught in ash. Stannis's jaw worked. At last he drew sword, not Lightbringer, just plain steel, and sunk to one knee, point grounded. "For the realm," he muttered. The red woman hissed but held. Robb raised daughter skyward, dawn bleeding pearl over battlements. Snow ceased. A raven landed on parapet bearing note from wall. Knights king marshals at Frostfangs. Shard drawn to him. Send fire and wolves. It bore scorch where message burned. So war lines redrew. Wolves, stag, spearwives, reeds, Freys in fever, maesters, babes. Walkers gathering shards of night. And from west a kraken fleet. From east lion slavers. From south a queen of thorns and a sparrow swarm all waiting. But beneath Winterfell's heart tree Robb planted the crocus given by the flax-haired girl. Its yellow petals shivered in frost yet clung to life. He bent, touched soil, whispered vow. That when story ended there would be gardens again, not graves. That children unborn might learn spring is more than myth. And in tower nursery Jane rocked Lyanna beneath candle glow. Shadows danced upon stone. The babe opened eyes. Curious, dark as northern night yet flecked with gold, and smiled as if unafraid of any shadow the world might cast. Outside, wind carried scent of pine, of distant sea salt, of cold sun rising over armies converging like tides. The long dawn faltered, but had not failed. Men sharpened blades, masons laid last stones, ravens rehearsed their frantic songs. Soon drums of winter would thunder again, and wolves, stags, krakens, lions all would run. Some toward the light, some yearning to snuff it. But for a heartbeat the pack breathed the same air, hearts beating in ragged unison, and the wall of death beyond the north flickered, not in surrender, but in recognition of worthy foe. And in that stillness, somewhere beneath deepest drifting snow, the night's king opened frost-cracked palm. Within lay a single droplet of wolf blood turned ruby glass, pulsing faint as dying star. He closed fingers around it, raised eyes to southern horizon, and began to walk.